Picture your living room. It's 1978. You're sitting on that burnt orange couch your mom refuses to replace. There's a TV in front of you, rabbit ear antennas reaching toward the ceiling, and you have exactly three choices: ABC, CBS, NBC. That's it. That's everything. Your parents watch the same three channels. Your neighbors watch the same three channels. Everyone you knew in every city across America was watching the exact same thing at the exact same time. What if I told you this wasn't because those networks had the best shows? What if I told you it wasn't even really a choice? For 40 years, three corporations controlled what 200 million Americans saw, heard, and believed. Not through great programming, through infrastructure control, through legal manipulation, through a scheme so perfectly engineered that most people never even realized they were trapped. To understand how three companies captured your brain, we have to go back to a government decision made in a DC office in 1952. The scheme started with scarcity, manufactured scarcity. Here's how it worked. TV signals broadcast on electromagnetic spectrum, radio waves, the same invisible frequencies that carry your FM radio or your garage door opener. And here's the thing about electromagnetic spectrum. It's finite. There's only so much of it. When two signals get too close on the frequency band, they interfere with each other. Static, snow, unwatchable television. So the government had to step in. Someone had to decide who gets which frequency. Enter the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. In 1952, they made a decision that would control American media for the next 4 decades. They assigned VHF channels, very high frequency, channels 2 through 13 on your TV dial. The good channels, strong signals. They traveled far. They worked with every television set already sitting in American living rooms. But here's the trick. They could have also allocated UHF channels equally. Ultra-high frequency, channels 14 through 83, plenty of room for competition. Dozens of channels in every city. Instead, they made UHF second class. Weaker signals, required special antennas, spotty reception. Most TV sets couldn't even receive UHF without an expensive converter box. The result? Most cities got only 3 to 5 VHF channels. New York and Los Angeles, the big markets, maybe got 7. Small cities got 2 or 3. That's it. This wasn't physics. This was a policy choice. And who benefited? BC, CBS, and NBC. They already owned stations in major markets. They got the prime VHF frequencies. Everyone else got scraps. By 1960, CBS alone owned stations in 5 major markets reaching 30 million people directly. And once VHF became the standard, the trap was set. Changing the system meant replacing every television in America. Consumers had no reason to buy UHF-capable sets. Even when UHF stations launched, nobody watched, couldn't receive the signal. A chicken and egg problem that lasted 30 years. But owning stations in a few cities wasn't enough. They needed the whole country. So they controlled the frequencies. They had the infrastructure, but that only worked in the cities where they owned stations. To capture the whole country, they needed a different strategy. Enter the affiliate system, a stroke of genius designed to look like partnership. Here's how it worked. ABC, CBS, and NBC didn't own most local stations. They controlled them. Big difference. A local station, let's say WKRP in Cincinnati, becomes a CBS affiliate. CBS provides programming for free, primetime shows, news broadcasts, specials, all free. The local station sells local advertising during that programming and keeps the revenue. CBS sells national advertising during the same shows. Everybody wins. Except here's the trap. Affiliation was exclusive. If you're the CBS affiliate in Des Moines, you only air CBS content. Can't show NBC programs. Can't air ABC specials. Nothing. The contract locked you in for years, and local stations had no choice. Think about the alternatives. Option 1, create your own content 24 hours a day. Impossibly expensive. Option 2, buy syndicated reruns. Limited options. Lower quality. Nobody's watching. Option 3, go dark and make no money. The economics were brutal. Networks offered free, high-quality content plus the legitimacy of the network brand. You took the deal or you died. This created a geographic lockout. Each market had one NBC affiliate, one CBS affiliate, one ABC affiliate. If you owned the NBC affiliate in Detroit, you had a local monopoly on NBC content. Competition was impossible. Networks wouldn't give programming to a second station in the same market. By 1970, NBC had 210 affiliates covering 96% of U.S. households. And here's the control mechanism. Networks could threaten to drop affiliates who didn't comply with their demands. Affiliates had no leverage. Lose the affiliation, lose your audience, lose your business overnight. This gave networks veto power over local news, local programming decisions, everything. So they controlled the infrastructure and the distribution. But what about the content itself? 3 doors, 3 gatekeepers. That's it. Every television show idea in America had to go through ABC, CBS, or NBC. There was no alternative. Cable didn't exist yet. Streaming wasn't even science fiction. Public access was a joke. You want to make a TV show? Convince one of 3 network executives. Good luck. The networks decided what got made, what got aired, what got canceled. They controlled the time slots, and time slots were life or death. Friday night at 8, you might survive. Friday night at 10, you're dead. Star Trek. NBC moved it to the Friday 10 p.m. death slot in Season 3. The show that would become a cultural phenomenon, killed by a scheduling decision. Think about the cultural impact. Networks determined which stories got told, which stories didn't, what Americans saw, what they never knew existed, and what got blocked. Controversial topics. Networks deemed too risky for advertisers. Political viewpoints outside a very narrow window. Content that challenged sponsor interests. Here's an example. You want to make a documentary about tobacco and lung cancer? Not if a cigarette company is a major advertiser. And in the 1960s, they all were. The result was homogenization. Programming aimed at the broadest possible audience. Offend nobody. Attract everybody. Bland, safe, middle-of-the-road content designed by committee. Innovation was punished. Different means risky. Risky meant uncertain ratings. Uncertain ratings meant rejected. Norman Lear fought for years to get All in the Family on the air. CBS rejected it. Too controversial, too edgy. They finally relented in 1971, and it became the #1 show in America for 5 straight years. But here's where it gets darker. The news. 3 network news divisions controlled what Americans considered reality. Walter Cronkite at CBS chose what was news for 20 million people every single night. And that's the way it was, because Walter said so. No fact-checking alternative existed. Newspapers were different. TV news became the authoritative source. As seen on TV meant true. But the networks didn't just accept these rules. They wrote them. Regulatory capture. That's the technical term for what happened next. The nicer phrase is the revolving door. Here's how it worked. FCC commissioners often came from the broadcasting industry, worked for networks, worked for stations, understood the business from the inside. Then they'd take a government job regulating that same industry. And after their government service, back to the industry. High-paying jobs, board positions, consulting gigs. Newton Minow, FCC chairman from 1961 to 1963, famous for calling television a vast wasteland. Later joined the CBS board of directors. Funny how that works. The networks lobbied heavily, donated to political campaigns, made sure the right people ended up in the right positions, and those people wrote rules that entrenched the existing players. Take the Fairness Doctrine, established in 1949, required broadcasters to present balanced coverage of controversial issues. Sounds great, right? Sounds like good policy. Reality: it gave networks the perfect excuse to avoid controversial topics entirely. Too risky to ensure balance, so we just won't cover it. Problem solved. Or the primetime access rule, 1970, designed to limit network power. Required networks to give back 30 minutes of prime time to local stations. Let the locals program their own content. Actual result? Networks still controlled which syndicated shows locals could buy, still controlled the time slots around that 30 minutes. Reduced competition, didn't increase diversity. Then there's the FinSyn rules, financial interest and syndication rules, 1970, prevented networks from owning the shows they aired, intended to help independent producers. Reality: networks maintained control through affiliate pressure and time slot power. Could kill any show by giving it a bad time slot. It didn't matter who owned it. The license renewal process sealed the deal. TV stations needed FCC license renewal every 3 years. Networks influenced which affiliates got smooth renewals. Challenging a license required massive legal resources, lawyers, filings, years of fights. Result: incumbents almost never lost licenses. The National Association of Broadcasters spent millions lobbying for favorable regulations, campaign contributions to key congressional committees, the whole machine. All of this was possible because of one thing: the advertising model. The advertising model was perfect, almost too perfect. Advertisers wanted mass audiences. They wanted to reach every American household with a single buy. And in the 1970s, they had exactly 3 options: ABC, CBS, NBC. That was it. No alternatives meant premium pricing. Networks could charge whatever they wanted. What are you going to do, not advertise? In 1980, a 30-second Super Bowl commercial cost $220,000, roughly $800,000 in today's money, and advertisers lined up to pay it. But here's what made it beautiful for the networks: guaranteed eyeballs. Nielsen ratings measured exactly who was watching, down to the demographic. Networks sold certainty. You want to reach 30 million people? Buy a spot during MASH. You will reach them, no question, no waste. Everyone had a television. Only 3 channels existed. The math was simple, and the networks controlled demographic targeting before the internet was even invented. 8 p.m., Family Hour, sold to Procter & Gamble, General Mills, wholesome brands for wholesome audiences. 10 p.m., adult audience, sold to car companies, beer brands, different products, different prices, same captive audience. Daytime soap operas, Housewives at Home, sold household products, laundry detergent, dish soap. They literally named the genre after the sponsor. Precision targeting in an analog world. The networks invented the upfront market. Advertisers bought commercial slots months in advance, committing billions before shows even aired, before anyone knew if the shows were good, before the first episode was filmed. Networks had guaranteed revenue regardless of quality, no performance pressure. The audience had nowhere else to go. The profit margins were obscene. CBS in the 1970s had 30 to 40% profit margins. Compare that to a normal business where 5 to 10% is considered good and 15% is exceptional. The networks were printing money, almost pure profit after content costs were covered. Network executives became millionaires, then multimillionaires. It was the perfect business model, a legal monopoly protected by the government and funded by advertisers who had no choice. But perfection doesn't last forever. Every monopoly has a weakness. And then the walls started to crack. 1975, HBO launches. No commercials, new content, Movies in your living room. 1980. CNN creates 24-hour news. The networks offered 30 minutes. Cable didn't need broadcast licenses. Used different infrastructure, coaxial cables running underground. Bypassed the entire FCC frequency allocation system that gave the networks their power. The technology shifted beneath their feet. Satellite technology made distribution cheap. By 1984, over 100 cable channels were available. Remote controls meant channel surfing became effortless. VCRs let people time shift, record shows, skip commercials. The audience was slipping away. Then the regulations changed. Cable deregulation in 1984 removed barriers to entry. The FinCEN rules were eliminated in the 1990s. The structural protections that had kept the networks safe for 40 years disappeared. Watch the audience fragmentation happen in real time. 1985. The Big Three had 90% of viewers. 1995. 60%. 2005. 30%. Today, streaming. YouTube, TikTok. Network television is nearly irrelevant. The primetime shows your parents organized their lives around and now struggle to hit 5 million viewers. Broadcast networks still exist, but they're diminished, hollowed out. Streaming created new gatekeepers. Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime, different monopoly, same structure. Platform control replaced frequency control. And here's the irony. We escaped ABC, CBS, and NBC. We thought we won. Now we have Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Netflix. Different technology, same consolidation, same control, same playbook. We didn't break the monopoly. We just traded 3 masters for 5 new ones. So what does this mean for us today? The triopoly wasn't about better content. It was about structural control. Control the infrastructure, control the message, control the regulations, protect your monopoly, control the economics, extract maximum profit. It's a pattern. And that pattern didn't die with ABC, CBS, and NBC. Today's tech platforms use the same playbook. Algorithm control equals content control. App Store monopolies equal distribution control. Lobbying plus regulatory capture equals the same game with different players. We're not smarter than the Americans in 1978 who didn't see the cage they were in. We're inside a new cage, just digital instead of analog, algorithms instead of antennas, platforms instead of frequencies. The question isn't whether monopolies exist. They do. The question is whether we'll recognize them before it's too late. So support decentralized alternatives. Question who controls your information diet. Understand this. When 3 companies controlled everything you saw, you didn't get the full picture. You got their picture. When 5 companies control everything you stream, you're not getting the full picture. You're getting their picture. At least now you know what to look for.